Hello and welcome, everyone. So we'll give everyone a chance to get signed on and stuff here while we get our notes ready. As always, read the disclaimer. Past performance is no indicator of future gains. We are not registered investment advisors. Anything we say is not an offer to buy or sell any security. This is for entertainment purposes only. And yeah, read the disclaimer. As we always say, it's important to get in that habit of reading the fine print, okay? You're going to come across a lot of it as an investor. So we'll give everybody a couple minutes to get logged on here while we get all our pictures ready. And we're looking ready to go. Let's see. So we've given everybody about a minute. So it is Monday, July 2nd, 2018. Start off to the week. And guess what? Wasn't it a fun start? We started up blood red this morning. By the time we closed, you can see there, we closed up on all three major markets and also to the small caps. The Russell 2K gave us another nice green day. The VIX was back down below that $16 level that we talk about. At $20, about 20 points is starting to get a little testy for the VIX. So we're still in that calm territory, even though it looks a lot more dramatic than it really was. We opened up this morning down about 200, 250 points. By the time the end of the day, we were up 34 points on the Dow, another 8 points on the S&P, and the NASDAQ was up another 57 points. So you can see here, there's a nice little theme here going. And it's kind of interesting too, because, let's talk about the media a little bit, okay? And how it affects your trading, because this is really important. So if you look at the numbers for the day, right? One of the things that happened this morning was we were watching Squawk Box before the market opened, and they were just pounding on this Heinz ketchup part of the trade wars, right? I mean, Trump's come out with these tariffs and raises and things like that. And what's happened is other countries are firing back. So ketchup was one of them, right? In Canada. So they turned this into a major debate, which seemed kind of silly just at the heart of it. But what happened was during this time, they opened up about 200, 250 points down. During the time they were all beating up Trump and yelling about Trump and how he's ruining the world and all this stuff, the market went green. For just a blip in the morning, you guys saw it. The NASDAQ went a little green. The Dow almost went green. They never noticed. They were so busy pounding their desk about ketchup that they didn't even notice the move in the market. So, and that kind of ties into the end of the day, right? If you guys look at this, check out this statement here. That's a chart. Breaking stocks. This is right next to that final number. Breaking. Stocks close higher to start off the third quarter, but trade fear caps gains. So there's always that caveat to it, right? There's always it's the end of the world scenario. So, and that's it. We just thought we'd share that with you. So, as far as the market goes, let's talk about it a little bit, because before we get into our market update, we've been talking about over the last few days, how that head and shoulders might be forming on the market. Now it's not, it's still pretty much information, but it hasn't defined itself one way or the other yet, but it's looking positive. So again, we're not going to go deep short until we see some kind of breakdown off that. We're not going to go deep long. We still believe in the long trade. We're still bullish on the markets as a service. And you guys can kind of count on that. And we opened up a new trade today. We'll talk about the trade tomorrow after all our members get into it. But we're still bullish in the market. We're still going long. We still got that short trade in Pandora. And we also have a short trade in the dollar. That on Friday, that dollar trade started to really take form. But then what happened? Over the weekend, Mexico elected a new president. That president's very liberal, very anti-Trump. The peso crashed, and it took the dollar up. We're not worried about the trade. It didn't really break any key levels or anything like that. It just got a little concerning there for a while. So let's kind of get onto our agenda for the show. As always, you know who we are, stockpickprofits.com. If you guys are interested, you know where the link is. The market outlook right now. Now, you're seeing a lot of different articles on on the internet right now. We're just talking about it, right? Especially from CNBC and stuff. And we'll share a couple of those links with you because we've got them here. The first one is Goldman came out this morning, and what they said was they are going to, I'm going to post this for you guys right now. They said the second half of the year is going to be real tough, right? Is it going to be tough? We'll see. But you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? Because right after that, we got we got another article for CNBC, and let's post this link. Guess what they said right after that? When analysts say sell a stock, it's time to buy. So where's the help in that, right? Anyway, so our market outlook, look, we don't change depending on how many clicks we want to get. We're not for sale. What we're going to tell you is the market is still bullish right now. The second half is sizing up to be a real nice second half. Don't fall into the media BS. What's happening right now is this Trump trade war is just starting to get into motion. Things are starting to start to resolve themselves. You can see it in the underpinnings of the market. That bad news comes out, you get all that crazy selling in the morning, and then all of a sudden it recovered to the rest of the day. Well, people are realizing that maybe they shouldn't have sold. Were you one of those people that sold this morning? Did you dump your stocks? Because if you did, you probably lost money and you never get it back. Again, you need to understand the market and understand the relation to the market from the media. So what do you believe? Who do you believe? Well, you believe yourself, just like we do. You see it all the time. You see us look at news stories and we just shake our head. It's not emotional. It's not a stab to the heart or anything like that. It's just dissemination. That's all it is. You guys learn that word dissemination because you'll hear it a lot in the investing world. All that is you are taking information, dissecting it, and deciding what's true and what's beneficial, right? And you guys follow that format. Don't bite into these articles. Don't bite too much into the news. We're going to use, last week we talked about Warren Buffett. We were Warren Buffett sayings all week. This week we picked, the trade team and myself picked a different investor, and he's a little bit different kind of an investor and a little bit different of a tone. So we'll get into that for a second, but it's Peter Lynch. So what to believe? You believe yourself. You believe in yourself. You believe in your system. You believe in your technical analysis. You believe in your decision making. Okay. So yeah, Goldman says the second half outlook is sluggish. And again, right after that, CNBC says they're wrong. So it's just an interesting tug of war in the media. They got to get clicks, and they're going to get them one way or the other. There's always a fool that'll click that link if you put the correct title in it. Don't be that fool. And then, we had some real interesting news, and we're going to post this link too for you. Because this was kind of interesting. This Iran deal, it just keeps unraveling. It just keeps getting uglier and uglier. Today it came out that it looks like they were trading citizenship for favor. Everybody in the planet knows, if they're honest, that John Kerry is probably the worst negotiating person on the planet. He probably has a circle of friends that every Friday night is just dying to get him in a poker game so they can take his money. He's that bad of a deal maker. This whole deal has just become really, really, Tala, I love you. This whole Iran deal is a perfect example of what was going on. And a lot of people thought, it's not necessarily, there's not these nefarious reasons for people saying these things about the Obama administration. There's actually factual information, and we have to be aware of this. And that Iran deal, it's just really getting ugly for the Democrats. And, the Democrats really, if we look at it in about January, maybe the end of January, February, the midterms were sitting pretty for them, and it looks like they've shot themselves in the foot on that. So that's going to be interesting in how it plays on the market, right? You remember, Goldman says the second half of the market outlook is sluggish. Where do they come up with that? Are they seeing something on the political landscape that might be affecting it? November's right around the corner, right? We're only about 4 or 5 months away from that, 3-4 months away from that. And that's going to be critical. And then we had the news with Trump. He's got to pick a Supreme Court justice. Can he pick him before the election? Big worry is for the conservatives that what if they lose Congress and then they can't get a pick through, right? So they want to do it while they've got control of Congress. That seems to be the flavor on that. So look, going forward, it's been an interesting start to the second half of the year. Today's July 2nd, first trading day of the second half. You know, it started off blood ugly, a lot of articles calling for the end of the world, the end of the stock market and things like that. None of them are real. You know, you guys that are members in the service know we actually put a new trade on the table. We're seeing some good signs in the market, and we're going to stick with our bullish outlook. So you guys kind of stick with that. We're still short the dollar. We think that today was an anomaly. It was all based on that Mexican election where peso just crashed. So that helps prop up the dollar. And then there were some other things. You know, there's always this trade conversation always plays to the dollar one way or the other. So we've got some economic news coming up during the week, and we're going to see how that plays out. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we go forward. Remember, all you viewers out there, it's a short market week. It's July 4th on Wednesday. You guys go out, barbecue, watch some fireworks, drink some beer. I guess baseball is a big thing too, right? For July 4th. So whatever it is that you guys enjoy, go enjoy it. Tuesday, tomorrow is a half day for the market. So we'll be on at about 1:30 Eastern time. The market will be closing at 1 o'clock. Then the market will be closed on Wednesday. So we will not have a show on Wednesday. We'll be back on Thursday. All right, gang. So that's your market outlook, and that's the way we're playing it right now. Let's go see if there's any questions. Welcome to all of you. Savant, Roland, Marco, Tala, you know, and thank you, Tala. We believe in you too. You know, we look at it like that, and you guys know that with our service. We believe in you just as much as you believe in us. If you're a member of our service, and we treat you like family, you're very important to us. You're the most important thing to us. We sink and swim together, right? Everybody knows that that's in the service, and we have a lot of fun doing it. That's the main thing. Are you having fun, right? We talk about that all the time. We had some questions on the Friday show about marijuana. The cannabis trade is still kind of breathing life into it. So if you're in the trades, we don't see any reason to bail out. Too many good things happen for cannabis, but as a overall sector move, it's just kind of taking a little bit longer to develop. So just be patient with your trades. Make sure you're in right, because once it pops, it's going to run. We had a little bit of talk about Bitcoin. Since we got a few extra minutes, let's talk about Bitcoin a little bit. It actually had a nice little pop today, right? It was up to that 12%. So now you can kind of analyze what we're talking about. What is a real bubble? A bubble, right? Inflates. Remember we talked about it inflates, and it's got all these people that own it at this price, and what happens is it stops, and then people get false hope, and that's your bubble. And then it starts reinflating, and people are buying and getting in, and it does it again, and it does it again, and it's doing it down the ladder. Well, we just broke that 6,000 over the weekend, right? And then we bounced off at about 12% today. Is it adding bag holders? Is it going to break up off that 6,000, or is it going to break down below that 6,000? So we'll keep an eye on it. If you're a Bitcoin player and you believe in the coin, stick with it. There was an article today on CNBC. Let me see if I can find that while I'm talking about this real quick. But there was an article on CNBC today where some big investor said cryptos are worthless. And, you know, if you're a believer in the coin, you just take it with a grain of salt, right? Let me see if I can find that, because it's kind of an interesting article. Now, usually we post these articles onto I Love Investing, but for the first couple weeks of the show, the team kind of, we post here and there, but we don't want to interfere with the post on the show. But we're going to start getting back today to doing all that, posting articles. And you guys really seem to enjoy it. We get a lot of commentary on that. So, and it's a fun conversation. Look, we love talking stocks. We love talking politics. We love talking the market. So a lot of times you'll get members of the team on there in the conversations, but I'm not sure where that article is, but oh, here it is. Here we go. You guys can take a look at this, and we'll post all these articles on the I Love Investing board individually later on today and in the morning, so you guys can see our commentary on it. But this is kind of interesting. You guys take a look at this one. So you can see the title of the article is it didn't pop up here. Over 800 cryptocurrencies are now dead as Bitcoin is 70% off its record high. Now, this was written by Arjun Karpal, who's actually a real good Bitcoin person. He's the technology correspondent for CNBC, but he knows a lot about Bitcoin. We read him a lot. And go read what he says. It's kind of interesting. You know, one of the key things about Bitcoin before we start closing out the show, one of the key things about Bitcoin is you have to mine it. And in that mining, I believe too, the blockchain has to be verified and things like that. There's a very key, important part that miners play. Well, depending on who you listen to, it seems like the cost of mining per coin is about 5,800. So anytime it goes below 5,800, what happens is the miners start losing money. Now, if you can't mine, if nobody's mining the crypto and nobody's verifying the formulas and stuff, what happens to it? So you have to ask that question. It's really at an interesting spot right now. And if you're, like we said, if you're a Bitcoin bull, you know, stick to your guns. If you're not, stick to your guns. But it's an interesting time for Bitcoin right now. So you guys, if you have a chance, go read that article. It's interesting. So we're going to look for questions. And if we don't have any, we're going to get you guys off for the day. Remember what we said. Take things with a grain of salt, always. On that S&P chart, let's make sure that we keep an eye on that head and shoulders. It looks like it's resolving itself to the upside, but you know, it could always be a head fake, and you never know with this news cycle going on. And then the last thing let's close with is, let's look at one more time. Let's look at our statement by Peter Lynch. So here we go. Far more money has been lost by investors preparing for corrections or trying to anticipate corrections than has been lost in corrections themselves. Guess what? Today was a perfect example of that, right? We had a nice rip-roaring Friday, right? A lot of good stuff happening. Little sell down in the last half hour, but bullish overall, right? We had this news come out Monday morning. We had this moves, this all this stuff about, you know, the economy and the trade wars and stuff. And it kind of spooked the market, right? And it opened up about $200, 200 points down. Guess what? Did you sell? Did you sell? Because if you did, guess what? By the time it was closed, all your stuff was back even. We were watching WWE, which is Worldwide Wrestling Entertainment, which is Vince McMahon's group. You guys know WWE, right? With the wrestling and stuff. How can you not? Hulk Hogan and all those guys, The Rock and all that. We were watching that stock this morning because we're looking for a play on it. If you look, it opened down about $2-3. And by the time it closed, it was up $2. So if you had knee-jerked and sold into that, you were exactly what Peter Lynch is talking about. So don't be that guy, okay? Don't be that guy. You hear us say that all the time. Don't be that guy. Oh, we got a question. Let me see. Marco says, click that. Let's get Marco first there, Savar. I've always wondered about that. What happens when it's more expensive to mine when the coin is worth? The same can be said for oil. Absolutely. Well, in the oil market, we know from experience that they close rigs, right? It affects your rig count. Rig count affects productivity. If there's oversupply in the market, naturally the rigs get cut back. And so you're not pumping as much supply in and prices can stabilize. Demand can catch up, right? I'd imagine it's the same way with Bitcoin, that as it becomes less profitable or even costing them money, they start closing down their equivalent of rigs, which would be mining boxes, right? So what happens when all these guys stop doing it? That's the big question. And I can't answer that, Marco, but it's an interesting thought, right? I mean, what really does happen? Because like I said, over the years, over the decades, oil is a very long in tooth industry, right? So it's been through all this stuff. It's weathered all this. It's made the mistakes. So we know in today's world, 2018, anytime supply starts overtaking demand, what happens is your drillers and stuff will start cutting back on wells. And that way it slows down the supply and then the demand can catch up. How does that work on Bitcoin? Interesting question, right? And Savar, of course, my man. So CNBC talking about the wealthy moving to cash. And yeah, I saw that. We saw that article too. Look, if you read that article, we'll try to find that article because we read it real early, but we kind of laughed it off because they're talking about the biggest influx of cash or biggest outflow of cash in what is it, like a couple years or something. Big. It was big, right? Savar, you probably saw the same article we did. But if you look at it, the data's from February. Doesn't help us, right? In July. So it would have been nice in January to know that, right? Then maybe that would have been if they had been a little more timely with the information and told us in January, or at least in the beginning or middle of February, or somewhere between then and the middle of March, right? If they had told us all this money, maybe we wouldn't have had those problems in April, right? Remember how bad April was for the market and for everybody else? There you go. Thank you. But you remember how that happened. So you see, again, the disservice that these people are doing to investors. It's just phenomenally disappointing, So, and that's a great question. And Marco too. Seriously, Marco, I mean, we'll find out. We'll research it. But it's an interesting thing because, like I said, with oil, they've been through it so many times over the years that they know what to do. They just start cutting back rigs, and that brings the supply back to a reasonable amount with the demand. But what do you do with Bitcoin? I mean, and plus too, Bitcoin has a max, right? I mean, there's only so many Bitcoins that can be mined, and where do the miners? What happens when Bitcoin's all mined out? I mean, what happens? You would think that cutting off a supply would be an organic way or a natural osmosis, right, to get profitability, because even if the demand stays the same, there's just no more available, right? So that was always the big story. That's funny. If you're old like I am, you probably remember in the 70s and 80s, that was the big way they sold silver, right? With those big brochures, and what they talked about, the world was running out of silver, right? Well, here we are in 2018. We still got plenty of silver. I trust the news a lot. I'm sorry, CNBC. I didn't mean to do that to you. But it's really like anything else, it's you got to take it with a grain of salt and be independent. You can't latch onto your news. Don't get into the tulip bubble. But don't let it become an echo chamber. Don't let the news become an echo chamber. It's not Twitter, okay? Don't let it be like Twitter. Twitter is just a big echo chamber. We always tell you guys that, right? And what we're telling you is be careful, because you're always going to be in a situation in Twitter where it's a group mentality, it's a gang mentality, or what do they call it? The gang mentality or whatever, the group mentality, group think or whatever. But you're always going to be in that in Twitter. And to a certain extent now, even with the big networks, the news, specific news channels like your CNBC, your MSNBC, and your Fox, that's all they do all day long, all night long is news. What happens is you end up in an echo chamber, and all it is people saying what you want to hear. And so whether you're right or wrong, you believe that's the truth, right? It's the old saying, the truth is nothing more than what you believe, right? So if you start believing it, then all of a sudden your portfolio is going upside down, your life's upside down, you're mad all the time. And I don't know, I guess you're wearing a black mask and a baseball bat. Or a tiki torch. Anyways, gang, so it has been an awesome Monday as always. The market in itself was just a fun ride today. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. We still aren't changing our bullish tone going forward. So if you're following us as a service, we're still bullish. We're looking for trades. A lot of fools lost money today. Don't be one of them. Whether you're subscribed to our service or not, be a smart trader, okay? And remember what Peter Lynch says. Far more money has been lost by investors preparing for corrections or trying to anticipate corrections. That then has been lost in corrections themselves. That is true words. This morning was a perfect example. If you own WWE on Friday and you panicked, you would have sold for about a $2-3 loss this morning. By the end of the day, you're up to $3. So on one stock, a 70-something dollar stock, you would have lost out. It was a $5 turnaround. Ouch. Ouch. So be smart and keep it together. And don't believe everything you read. Don't believe everything you hear. Question everything. And we will see you guys tomorrow. Don't forget, we'll be on at about 1:30 p.m. tomorrow because it's a half day. Let's all get our breaths. Let's all get recouped, and let's get it back in there tomorrow. It was a really nice day. It was a good close. Really, everything kind of went... it was an antithesis for all what media we were seeing and stuff. And, it's not to say it was anything nefarious to it, but it was definitely not any help from the media today. So we'll talk soon. We'll see you guys tomorrow. You have a great Monday. Don't forget July 4th. Get ready. Let's have a good time.